I've been a soldier almost my entire life, through the academy in my youth to basic training in the early stages of adulthood. As a Quillarian, it was expected of me. I wasn't the best student, but I was far from the bottom of my class. I fared better in basic, since I decided to apply myself to improvement. I particularly excelled in the fear training, an exercise specifically designed to weed out those that would fall apart in combat. The horrors that they send right into your brain with their machines were extremely adept at doing just that. I fought in countless battles on as many nameless planets, both as conquered and conqueror. There's always someone out there trying to take something from somebody else. It just so happens on occasion that the someone is you. The thing with being a soldier is that it eventually all becomes routine. Yes, eventually, even staring death in the face becomes the mundane. Every species has a fighting style. The Grimoire will charge right at you, letting their shields take the damage until they can get close enough to disembowel you with their rather lengthy claws. The Kaitsif will silently hunt you from the shadows. My own people will fly above and drop explosives, but all these can, and have been, countered, like some galactic game of sword, shield, hand. Then there are the Terrans, or humans as they call themselves. I've never had to meet one in organized armed conflict. They are relatively new to the galactic stage, and as yet to annoy someone, or exhibit riches to the point of being attacked on a large scale. And I don't think they ever will. Humans are Death Warders. They come from a planet so hostile that everything is innately born to kill everything else. Even the planet itself, with its heavy gravity, chaotic weather, and constant shifting of its tectonic plates. If you think you get a reprieve from fighting for your life from the flora, well, you will be wrong there. They regularly ingest capsaicin. Yes, they use a toxin as something to flavor their food. They ingest ethanol in high quantities to alter their body chemistry for funsies, as one put it once. After my military services were no longer needed, I decided to join a mercenary group. There were the usual assortment of species as part of the group, but this one had humans as well. Not unheard of, but also not that common. They were prized for their strength and cunning in battle. I say all of this to point out the fact that I'm not easily rattled. That is, until I met humans. The first time a human scared the hell out of me, we were above... I don't know. I was otherwise engaged. It doesn't even matter. We were hired to give additional support to the Aquilenians in their latest quarrel, with gods only knows who this time. We didn't care, as long as the credits were deposited on time. The problems began the instant we jumped out of FTL. The information packet we received of the engagement said the security would be minimal at best. The information packet was obscenely wrong. As soon as we dropped out of FTL, we had to immediately dodge the smoking hull of a cruiser that was once an ally only a moment before. That was a mistake. That ship was the only thing protecting us from the ground batteries that were obliterating everything that was in orbit. We sustained a few blasts as we made our way through the rapidly expanding debris field. I thought we were doing alright considering the circumstances. That is, until the ship took a direct hit. The ship shook violently, and anything that wasn't strapped, bolted, or tied down was no longer in the same place it was before the hit. A voice came over the bridge intercom. Hi, yes, hello? This is Carl. The Carl in engineering? There was only one human on the ship, and no other species could even conceive of the name Carl. I was wondering if you could send someone down to help out here. The captain looked around the room and landed his gaze on me. You, go, was all he said. It was rough going trying to get to the engine room. The ship and I settled into a macabre dance of lurching and shuddering, but onward I pushed. When I got to the engine room, I saw Carl standing there, with his hand on his chin, thinking. You needed help? I asked, breaking him out of his contemplation. "Ah, yes, yes, come here," he said. "We're having a bit of a thing down here, it seems." "Is there anything I can do to help?" I asked. Carl had this way of understating the obvious. Any crisis was a bit of a thing in his head. The ship took another hit and I fell to the floor. He somehow managed to stand upright. "How are you not falling all over the place?" I asked, rubbing what will surely become a bruise later. "Huh? Oh, I'm Canadian," he replied, like that should somehow just make sense. He must have seen the look of confusion on my face, so he continued. "It's a nation-state on my home planet of Earth. Terror to you. It's near the northern polar region, so it's cold and gets a lot of snow." A look of confusion spread across his face. "Snow? You don't know what snow is? It's dihydrogen monoxide in its solid state. It falls from the sky and blankets the ground for an extended period of time. So we climb to the top of a large hill, strap some planks of composite materials to the bottoms of our feet, and throw ourselves down the hill. We made a bunch of different sports out of it, but most people do it recreationally." "You what?" was all I could get out. Dihydrogen monoxide, one of the most deadliest substances in the galaxy, and this crazy species plays in it. "Oh yeah, bud. You should hear about a game where we strap knife shoes to our feet and slap a 6-inch disc of galvanized rubble around, all while trying to hit the other team as hard as we can." I instinctively took a step back, an expression of pure and utter shock on my face. "You..." was all I could get out this time. My ability to process what he just said was lacking. "Yeah, but that's only in the winter. In the summer we strap planks of composite materials to our feet and grab a rope tied to a speeding watercraft, which then pulls us around on liquid dihydrogen monoxide. It's really fun when the watercraft makes a sharp turn and violently whips you around." Carl stopped talking abruptly. He was as still as a statue, like an animatronic with his cord pulled in the middle of a sentence. "Carl, you alright?" I asked. All of a sudden, a smile graced his face. Big, wide, and full of teeth. I was about to pull my blaster in defense. That was the smile of a hungry predator. "I've got an idea!" he shouted excitedly. He ran over to the console and tapped the switch to the bridgecom system. "Hi, yes, hello. This is Carl. Carl from engineering?" he said, or asked. The translation matrix always posed it as a question. "I hope you got something good for me," shouted the captain. "For all the credits I've dumped into your sorry hide." "Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry about that," he answered back. "Look, Captain Dude, I'm sending you detailed instructions for course corrections when the time comes. Follow them to the letter, or you'll end up in our respective afterlives." He finished, ending the call and cutting off what was sure to be a scathing remark about the captain's name not being Dude. When he got back to me, he let me in on his plan. I took a deep breath and went and sat down in the corner. His plan was this. He was going to bypass the antimatter flow regulator to fuel inject it into the core, thus causing a breach and subsequent explosion. Here's where the fun begins. His words, not mine. Never my words. The bypass will flow through a particle accelerator. This will cause an explosion of such magnitude that it will result in a singularity. We then use our combat thruster to ride the gravitational pull of the newly formed accretion disk all the way to the next system. The fact that I'm able to relate this story to you would serve as proof that it did indeed work. We overshot the next system by a month at combat speed, but we were no worse aware. We only lost 2 crewmates in that ordeal, thanks to Carl. He was indeed worth the credits. The second time I heard those words was many years later. With the successes that Carl brought, the captain decided to hire more human crew. One of these humans were named Yis. He hailed from the nation-state of China. Apparently, this nation-state produced one of the greatest military minds of Terra's entire history. Sun Tzu. His military doctrine had been passed down throughout history, and even been adopted by other races. Yis and I were part of a contingent of troops, tasked with evacuating the Hive Queen from Zelvania 4. We were harried by Ursa's troops every step of the way. We managed to make it to a cave system for respite, the Queen and her coterie exhausted from fleeing. Ys approached the Hive Queen, and her guards moved between the two. They still didn't fully trust the diminutive Terran. "Apologies, Queen," he said calmly and with a bow. "I only wish to ask a few questions so that I might better assist in our evacuation." The Queen chattered, and the translators put it into a language Ys could understand. "Ask your questions," it translated. "These caves are your ancestral home, are they not?" "Yes, they are," she responded. "But we haven't used them in quite some time." "Do you still have knowledge of the cave system and its layout?" asked Ys. "I do," said the Queen. "As Hive Queen, I was gifted with the genetic memories of all previous Hive Queens. It aided us in being able to effectively rule over the Hive without years of learning the basics." "I have an idea." Ys relayed his plan to our troops and the relevant guards. The plan was essentially to draw the enemy in and collapse the cave, which wouldn't be much of a concern except that some of us needed to be bait to draw in the enemy forces. Ys was to stand in the middle of the open cavern and have the enemy surround us. When a sufficient number were drawn in, he would set off explosives in the walls and support pillars, bringing down the entire cavern on everyone, which included us. He said that as he was detonating the explosives, I would be activating the portable shield generator to create a bubble of protection. The Queen would then have her subjects dig us out afterward. "Yes, will this work?" I asked. "Who is to say?" he responded. "It will either work and all our enemies will have perished, or it will not work and we will have perished." "Damn," was all I said in response. "Look at it like this. It will work or it won't. Either way, our work will be done," he said with a dismissive shrug. The Queen's subjects built a bunker in the center of the cavern that would help protect us and the shield generator. They then burrowed into the wall to make a chamber to house the Queen. It wasn't long before the 3 troopers used to lure the enemy came running in, dodging blaster fire the entire time. They made it to the safety of the bunker, only sustaining minor injuries. Blaster fire ricocheted harmlessly off the outside of the bunker. We fired sparingly for 2 reasons. The first was to obviously conserve ammunition. The second was to give the enemy a false sense of superiority. If they knew our true numbers, they would hesitate to enter the kill zone, and our trap would be useless. They fell for it. They poured into the cavern with no thought of it being a trap. "My esteemed colleague, prepare to activate the shield when it starts falling down around us," Ys said. Ys picked up the detonator and began flipping the 2-step safety switch to activate it. He counted down from 3, and almost instantly the explosions rocked the cavern. The ones by the entrances were detonated first to cut off escape. Any enemy troops near the explosions were killed instantly. The cascade of subsequent explosions started bringing down the cavern roof. It was fortunate that I activated the shield at the same time that Ys set off the explosions. The margin for error was very slim. Again, it obviously worked. It was eerily silent for a time as we took stock and made sure everyone was alright and alive. Aside from a twisted ankle from when the cavern shook, everyone was relatively intact. It was about 10 minutes later when we heard the faint sounds of digging. We emerged from the buried bunker to the Queen awaiting us. She navigated us through the tunnels, and we even emerged fairly close to the evac location. We were paid double for that. That is all in the past. Now I'm sitting in some bombed-out city, about to be overrun. I resign myself to my fate. I look around, and that's when I see something. I smile, and turn to my nearest compatriots and say, "I've got an idea."